The next area we're going to take a look at are mega themes. These are themes that exist in the world today. There's a number of mega themes that I believe are going to drive the future. And these things are moving already. There's not much we can do to stop these mega trends from happening. In fact, I'd suggest to you that COVID-19 has probably accelerated a lot of these changes. We're going to take a look at some of them because this is how firms operate in this environment. So when we're thinking of strategy, we're talking about leadership. These are things that need to be looked at. The firm operates in them. First one we're going to take a look at is globalization. We're interconnected. We're going to take a look at aging in the world. Climate change, disruption and innovation, a big thing, which includes digitalization and artificial intelligence. And then we're going to wrap it up with global political change. So we're going to look at these trends both from a global perspective and to the U.S. I think we're more connected than we've ever been. The internet connected the world. Everything is connected to everything else. I suggest, despite what we might have been seeing over the past couple of years, we're still interdependent with each other and interlocked as nations and as individuals in a way that has never been the case before. We see that with COVID today. I want to stop for a moment and take a look at what we'll call a supply chain. Okay? And when you're looking at this, you can start, and this is an example of this, is really with meat that we saw earlier with COVID, is that you have suppliers of the input, farmers to processors to wholesalers to retailers to consumers. Okay? There's a transaction every step of the way, both downstream and upstream. So the supply chain has gotten more complex as time has gone on because of where people are located, what is happening. There's so many different people involved. In the past, if you go back 100, 200 years, there wasn't these middle people here. Okay? You went right from farmers to consumers. But we've built these supply chains around the world. Keep that in mind as we're going through this. Our food comes from all over the world. There's global interdependence on our genetic resources for plants. Okay? If we look at the Boeing 787, and yeah, it's been a tough one, especially with the slowing of the airline business. But when you look at this, look at where all the parts come from across the globe. Okay? Two examples of this interconnection. Next one is the S&P 500, and the S&P 500 are the 500 largest companies in the United States, okay, based in the United States. And when we look at where the revenues come from, we can see that 30%, okay, of the biggest American firms' revenue comes from outside the U.S. Okay? They're dependent on this business. The number of employees in American top 500 firms. We're seeing again, look at how many work in the U.S. versus how many are working abroad. Again, this global world. And when we look at the population of the world, we see China at about 18%, India at 17%. We're only about 4.3% of the world's population. So there's a lot of people elsewhere other than in the U.S. And what we're seeing, and we've been seeing this for some time, is that the world population is growing. The developed countries, we're in the developed countries, are staying flat. The developing countries are the ones that are growing. And when we look at it going forward, that by 2100, we're going to see that with the growth that's going on today, that the people in Africa and Asia will far outnumber the rest. Now, what does that mean from a business potential? Well, if I'm a company, and if you go back to this right here, where's my market opportunity? Okay, if there is 7 billion people in the world and 325 here, there's 6.7 billion people outside the U.S. Looking at China, India, and then we get into Africa. This is where my business opportunities are. And into the future, my opportunities are here. They're not going to be here to 500 million people. And when we look at it from an organizational behavior perspective, there's different customs, different approaches to work. So again, our opportunities are outside the U.S. In North America, 500 million, look at the size around. It's huge. Now, how does this all tie together? Well, let's keep looking at this. The average hourly manufacturing, this is the cost, including benefits. And as you can see, that other parts of the world are cheaper. Okay, so if we step back to basic accounting, debits equal credits, revenues less cost equals profit, where we produce our goods has an impact on the firm's profitability and the price to the customer. So if cash in exceeds cash out, that's good, surplus. That's one. The other one is its balance, cash in and out equal. Cash in is less than cash out, you have a deficit. So if we're looking at, every company has this relationship between sales price and cost. So if we're looking at the cost of making things, it's very costly to make it in the U.S., where it might be cheaper to make it in Brazil or Mexico. So if you start with that equation, if you want it all in your own country, the price is going to be substantially higher. So take something that has $1 cost of materials, $1, you make it in Mexico, cost is $6.90, so say I can sell it to a consumer for $8. Okay, we come up here to the US, 38, and I need to sell that same thing for $45. Is the market there? So what we've been doing is jobs have been moving, searching out the lowest possible cost that doesn't disrupt your supply chain. And what we saw, and this is where the beginning of this globalization, is that new labor forces became available. Eastern Europe after 1989, China opening in 1997. It didn't become part of the World Trade Organization until 2002. We now have Vietnam, Malaysia, we have Nigeria, we have the Sudan, we have the Congo. So this is going to continue to happen because price is important. Okay, you or I don't want to pay high prices. The global financial system is interconnected. Banking, financial markets, currencies, we're all tied together in this financial system.